Yo, what's good, man? Welcome to the Cali Rexx show. This is the pot with your man, Mr. Cali Rexx. All right, man. So, welcome to the Cali Rexx show. I appreciate you guys coming in and sitting down with your mans real quick to go ahead and have a quick little talk or conversation. Today, we're going to talk about people who spin false narratives. All right, so that's what we're talking about. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us can relate to the whole issue of people who spin false narratives, right? So, today we have something that's coming from Predict Future. All right, that's the name of the channel that I got this from, this content right here. Predict Future. This is one of my first, or excuse me, this is my first episode for the Cali Rexx show. First show of 2026 also, guys. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I hope y'all was being safe. Hope everybody out there was having a good, blessed time. All right, blessed, safe. Hope you enjoyed. A lot been going on, especially in my life, as we go on through podcasts and through shows and lives and so forth on as we live stream, you guys will get to know a lot more about me. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go through. This is just a little something that I wanted to dig through right here because people are always trying to spin some type of false narrative about you, right? Like somebody is always trying to, you know, take you down, take down your reputation, take down your character, right? Somebody is always trying to, you know, assassinate who you are as a person, as a human being, and so forth more. And, that's what this today's segment will be about is people who spin false narratives, people who try to just, dirty up your name, man, for whatever reason that they're trying to dirty up your name for, if they're trying to whether there's a hidden agenda, something that they're trying to accomplish, or it could be just pure hate, right? And a lot of times you're surprised about where these false narratives come from, right? Like it could come from your family, your friends, your girlfriend, it could come from your wife, it could come from so many different angles, and it can take you back. Like, why? Like, what happened? Right? Why are we even going through the whole you dirtying up my name and trying to make me seem like less of a person than who I actually am. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Now, guys, I'm going to let y'all know right now my channel will be a reaction channel, content channel, and a common sense channel. And there's nothing too much that we're going to stray away from. We're going to deal with everything from religion to relationships to it doesn't matter, just common sense knowledge, wisdom. Sometimes I think my podcast will probably bore some people because I'm like a lecturer, right? So even with my kids, they hate it, right? I'm not gonna say they hate it, but they hate it. Anyway, I'm a lecturer. So that means that if I got something to put out there and teach to you and, something that really hits me deep, then we can go on talking about this for hours or a couple hours until my tongue gets exhausted or, my mouth gets exhausted and I'm done with talking my vocal, I'm just like, but it could be a while, especially when it's come down to a subject that I really like. Um, and things like that. So, with that being said, today we're going to talk about people who spin and spread false narratives about you. I am one who can actually relate to that because, unfortunately, okay, so you have music out here, hip hop. You know that song? It's one of them songs by Eminem who says, the most hated on out of all those who say they get hated on in 80 songs and exaggerated all. I can honestly sit here and say that I'm one of them people who actually get hated on a lot. And it's crazy. Like, I have to point it out and I have to show people like this is what I'm talking about. And that's what this video kind of gets into too, how you have to sometimes be silent and quiet and let the truth reveal itself. You can't always battle down your false narratives, people who spin these false narratives about you. you can't always battle it back out with them with words and all that stuff. Sometimes you got to let your truth go ahead and show. And sometimes it may take a while. Sometimes it seem like forever, right? But eventually your truth will come out. But, in today's world, man, I'm not going to lie. We're living in a time in a place where people today tend to, everybody's falling in line with the bull, with the BS, if you get what I'm saying. So everybody's falling in line with, the trend. I like to call it that, right? So people today are trending. And what I mean by trending is that everybody falls in line with something that everybody else is doing, right? That means that if everybody here on social media is like the challenges, right? Or if everybody here is mimicking this one part out this movie, or, you know, you're trying to act out this one part in the movie, or you're trying to be this certain way or pick up certain type of slang or characteristics, like it's crazy how people trend in the world today, and that's what happens with a lot of people, man. They trend, they all fall in line with the next person. And you have certain individuals out here who are able to, withstand and sustain from that type of behavior and rhetoric, as far as falling in line with the rest. Like you're conforming to what's going on with everybody else. And I'm not one of them type of people that can conform like that. I'm gonna just let that be known right here off the bat. I'm not the type of person who can conform to, you know, falsified things, or acting out in a falsified manner, or trying to fit in with the rest just because everybody else is doing this. I need to go ahead and fit in with that too. Like, so I'm not the type of person who's going to fit in with everybody else. I'm like that standout individual. Like, I'm not doing that because y'all doing that, because I know what that shit lead to. I know what things like that lead to. Excuse my words, excuse my language out there, y'all. Again, it's going to be a reaction channel, common sense, knowledge, and at times you will have a couple of my episodes that will get explicit. So if you do not like cussing, you don't like hearing reality, you don't like being confronted with your reality, conviction, things like that, then this is not going to be the channel for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that be known right here, right now, off the back. This is not going to be the channel for you. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into this content, man. This is coming from Predict Future, and like I said before, um, about people who spin false narratives about you, man, and that's the thing right here that we're going to talk about is people who spin false narratives. So let's get into this real quick, man. Now, this video right here is not one of the best videos that, I can sit here and say, hey, it's going to be entertaining. It's not entertaining. This video is kind of dumbed down, boring. It's like an AI machine talking, but it hits on so many points. And this video is kind of long, so we're not going to go through a whole video. We'll say this content for people who want to go and maybe listen to this video or check it out themselves. You can go ahead and check it out. Like I said, it comes from Predict Future. Shout out to Predict Future. All right. And let's get into this. Let's get into it. All right, man. So very powerful right there, right? So you're waiting for the moment, you're letting your silence speak, and I've been there. Problem is, I'm frustrated, right? Like anybody else would be. You get a little frustrated with waiting for these things to come out, for people to see you for who you are. And the funny thing is, I remember growing up, like, I'm an 80s baby, y'all. So I remember growing up, man, and, being younger and being naive, you kind of did some things and took things into your own hand until you start waking up and realizing that, damn, you know, the universe is moving. God is moving for you. God is, you know, removing your enemies and things like that. And I've been there. And it came to the point where I started realizing that God is really fighting my battles for me, right? Like He's fighting my battles for me. He's helping me to achieve, you know, more, or God is actually, making these things happen, for me, as far as, um, taking care of my enemies and things like that. And so this is where, it's like, okay, step back, let it go. And I had to realize that in life, like, you know what, as the good book would say, vengeance shall be his, right? And I realized that in life that I don't always have to take things into my own hand. I don't. And the good book also tell you there's a time for everything. So there's a time for you to speak up. There's a time for you to go ahead and, let that be known. But there's a time also for you to be quiet, right? There's a time for everything, y'all, in the world. And today, as you see with everything that's going on in our society, there's a time for even that, the BS, and that's what we're dealing with right now, right? So with that being said, man, we're gonna get back into this video, but I just had to stop there and say something about that because that's pretty powerful about, you know, uh, how God will take care of things, man. The higher power, the universe, whatever your belief system is, man. As they say, the faith of a mustard seed. If anybody don't know how small a mustard seed is, right? But that little mustard seed, if you have faith and you keep watering and planting that seed every day, this is what I do with my kids, and I try to do this with my kids and people around me. Is plant seeds, positivity of inspiration and motivation. Some people don't like it, but we're gonna get back into this video.
Because it doesn't need a mic. It begins to collapse on its own weight. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. The evidence is showing the people are falling. Narrative with you 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 truth rises can stand in its way. Outlives the lie. You realize how lies are, they travel fast. They for spread false stories about reality. It exposes what deception tries to protect. You
You know what? People don't like to hear wait, but truth. Everything comes in good time and fashion. As they say, the good man comes in perfect time, right? It's not within our time that we want it. It's within the time that he knows it's absolutely needed, and this is the time, right? And so that's what it comes down to, just patience. And I'm guilty because I don't have it.
Those who try to hold water in their hands. For a while, it looks like they words are holding weight, but slowly, one drop, the truth slips through their fingers. And when it's gone, all this empty that's what happens when you build reputation by tearing someone else down. Eventually, it all falls apart. See, truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need a crowd. It stands quietly, waiting for the storm of deceit to settle so it can be seen clearly again.
The truth don't need a crowd, man. Bingo. The truth don't need a crowd. If you notice, man, people who spread lies about you, people who tell lies about you, if you notice, they always need a crowd. If you notice, them type of people are always fishing for friends. They're fishing to be accepted. They're trying hard to fit in. They would damn near do anything to fit in, but yet they get highly jealous about you because you're the threat, right? You're the threat. You're the one that everybody kind of likes, or whatever the case could be. So therefore, they start having to spin false narratives about you, right? And and that's, man, strong. It's strong. What else can I say? It's strong.
Truth about you is strong. Lies against you. When people talk behind your back, they reveal more about your character. The truth is silent defender. It always struggle in the middle of the night when they realize the story. And one day, when everything is brought to them, the same innocent light will be silenced by the evidence of your integrity. The truth is often people who were too quick to believe a lie. Here can
Man, you ever get caught up in that where you're dealing with people who are so quick to believe the lie? Like people who believe the lie. They're quick to believe the lie. No matter what you show, they're still going to believe the lie. Sometimes you got to realize that people fall in the same line with everybody else. They're going to be quick to believe the lie. And that's the bad part, right? Like people are going to be quick to believe the lies. And so this is what, this is where you have to like stand strong in your presence of who you are. You have to stand strong in that presence, right? Because if not, then what ends up happening is you lose. You lose to the bull. You lose to the false narratives. And it go like this, man, for me. If you're one of them people who believes the false narratives, the false spins, and you know who I am prior to any of this or any of the lies coming to you or anybody who's coming to you to tell a lie about me, if you believe the lies versus what you already know and seen with me and experience with me or anybody that you know, then it shows how shallow you are, right? It's not me, it's you. And if you're going to, and that's what I mean by trending, because think about it. A lot of people be like, this is okay. So, and I'm going to say this, it depends on what type of lie is it, right? Because there's different type of false narratives that people will spin about you. So this is a part that I meant to cover too, and we're going to get into this right now before I get on to this next part. People who spin false narratives, sometimes the false narratives that they're spinning could be detrimental to your life. All right. It could be damaging, very damaging to your life. All right. And what I mean by that is this. Now, imagine if, let's go from a simple standpoint. All right. You have somebody like when you was younger, your parents or something like that, right? Back in the day, parents used to love to talk about their kids, especially to family or to friends and stuff like that, right? Or if they're out in public with their friends, like you was a kid and you may be that little hard headed kid or something like that, but you know, their parents, oh, I tell this boy all the time, stop doing this and he whatever, whatever, whatever. Oh, he ain't whatever the case is. But when you get older, right, people have to realize that, okay, from a kid, and if you're dealing with your parents, you know, your elders and stuff like that, when you become an adult, right, you're no longer that kid. And I think some people have a hard time letting go of certain past, interactions or certain past elements, right? And what they end up doing is they end up, sitting there talking about you, right? And it could be your loved ones, your parents and stuff like that. And they can just be trying to innocently make conversation. But what ends up happening is in that innocent conversation that you're trying to make with somebody else about your child or about whoever, who are you talking to right there? Like that person that you're spreading this information about your people, your loved ones, who are you talking to right here? Because this is where false narratives and things can affect a person's life, right? Like you can stand strong in a lot of things. And this is what, I don't want people to get it confused and think that, oh yeah, Cali Rex is just saying be quiet. Like, no, don't just be quiet. But there's times that, hey, you have to be quiet. Let your truth come out. But there's times where you absolutely have to speak up. There's times where you have to interrupt and let, the truth be known or let people know that that's a lie. And show and tell and prove because sometimes people are trying to make conversation or trying to fit in and they don't realize that this person that they're talking to right here can actually be, a CEO or, a corporate manager or something like that. And here you is, maybe one day when you need a job or something like that, you may have to walk into this corporation. And when you walk into this place, here it is. When you walk in, guess who's there? Guess who's doing the hiring? It's the person who your folks, your parents, or something like that was downplaying you on into, right? And so now when you walk into this place, their recollection is, yeah, I remember talking to his mama or talking to his dad, and he was saying that, he don't like to take care of business and he don't like to, be responsible and things like that. Now, here it is, you've been living a responsible life, but for some reason, you know how that go. People always see the bad part of you. So if they couldn't let go of who you was when you was a kid or 10, 15, or 20 years ago, and they don't see who you have became or have become over the last decade, it's like you left that behavior long behind, like it's gone. But for some reason, these people still see you as that problematic issue. And so that's who they still project to other people about who you are. And it becomes damaging, right? Because you're no longer that kid. You're no longer that hard headed kid. Like you're a grown man now. You're an adult. You know how to take care of business. But for some people, they don't know how to let go. And this is where it comes down, to, hey, wait. And I've clashed with some people and some of my people about these same issues because it's like, hey, don't do that because I'm not that person no more. I'm not who I used to be as that kid or, and I understand that you're just trying to make a conversation, but you don't understand how that can affect your loved one's future or their chances later on because you don't know who you're talking to when it comes down to these things that you're talking to this individual about. And you just hurt your loved one's chance at, securing a good position that could have changed their life because the person that they ran into or somebody that they was talking to about you works at that place or they're running or doing a hiring. And it can create a mess and downplay and just eject your whole opportunity, right? It's just pure rejection. Like, no, I'm not gonna mess with him. Why? Because I remember talking to his people or hearing his people say he wasn't responsible. And it don't even have to be the person that your people was talking to. They could have just been in earshot, right there in the crowd, right there in the crowd. And this is where you sometimes you have to speak up, because if not, it will be an issue of, damaging, um, collateral to your life. I'm gonna say it like that. It can be very damaging to your life. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna move on with this video. Let's see what else going on.
So there's a point in your life when you realize that not every battle deserves your energy.
Not every battle.
Not every
No,
requires your defense.
that part.
Because when you're truly who you are, your heart is anchored in truth. You stop feeling the need to prove it to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The real you doesn't need defending. You see, when people twist your word, they manipulate your intention, when they build false stories to make you into something you're not. It's easy to fight back to set the record straight, but wisdom teaches you that silence can be loud, peace can be stronger than arguments. Truth, truth doesn't need you to protect it. It just needs you to live it. When you know your worth, you stop chasing validation. You stop trying to convince people who have already made up their minds about you. Some people don't want the truth. They want drama. They don't want to understand. They want control. You refuse to play.
And some people only want control. And that's just what it is. That's all they want is control. They don't want nothing else besides control. Right. And that's why some people be on, you know, damage demolition is what I like to call it. Not damage control, because you're the person who's trying to do damage control. But the person who's trying to tear you down, they're on a demolition tactic. They're on the demolition mission, right? Tear you down. But this is what it comes down to when I say, hey, you can be quiet and let your truth speak out. But sometimes you got to speak up, because it can get very damaging. And you don't want it to affect your life in the wrong manner.
Because the more you focus on who you really are, the more your lies begin to crumble. When the noise fades, what remains standing is your consistency. When the crowd gets tired of gossip, they'll start to see the truth they ignored. Defending yourself against false accusations can become a trap. It drags you into the muck of other people's insecurities. It distracts you from your purpose. Every time you expose yourself to those who only want to twist your words, you give them more material to use against you.
Say it again, man. You're giving them people more material to use against you. All right. And so, with that being said, why would you want to give these people more material to use against you? Because, I mean, if anybody who's ever been arrested or taken into custody overnight, whether it was a DUI or whatever the case could be, what do the police tell you? They say you have a right to what? Remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, right? Anything you say can and will be used against you. You got to understand them words right there, that content, right? That context. So what do that mean? That mean that anything you say, they can take your words, even though you was professing your innocence. They can take your words and whatever information that you provided to them, they can pick it out and say, okay, this makes them guilty. This part, they can utilize what you have stated to them to make you guilty. They can be used against you. They can and will be used against you, is what they're telling you. So with that being said, it ain't no can and it may be if and no can and will be used against you. And that's what people who spin false narratives about you do. They utilize your truth or your words or your defense words against you. And they start trying to break down and pick out, things that they can go ahead and utilize more against you, right? Like even if you're telling them about your hardships in life, of things that you may have went through, they're still sitting here saying, I'm going to utilize that too. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there too. Some people are relentless when it comes down to their BS. They don't want to understand. And it's crazy that sometimes these people that you're dealing with can be your loved ones. They can be people that you love, people that you respect, or once you thought you was cool with, and things like that. And all of a sudden, here it is, they're on damage demolition. They're trying to tear you down, right? And that's when it comes down to you having to realize that, you know what, I just got to be quiet, man. I can't deal with this person. I can't function with this person, and things like that. Like, that's when you have to realize that, like, you just can't do it. And so, with that being said, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you have to go ahead and dismiss yourself from them type of people. All right. So let's get back into this video.
Every time you silence over chaos, you take your power back. Every time you respond with grace instead of anger, you rise above their rage. They want a reaction because that's how they feel validated. But deep starves that joy. Your stillness exposes noise. You see, people who lie about you are expecting you to break character, to lash out, to lose control, so they can point and say, "See, I told you."
Man, ain't that the truth? Man, do you know how many times I've been caught up in people who want to make me seem like I'm just terrible, evil, mean person? And it's crazy because you can be calm with a person once, explain yourself once, twice, and you may even take it a third time, right? And you keep explaining to this person, like, look, respect, right? Distance, space, whatever the case could be, you keep explaining to this person in the calmest manner ever. But this person wants you to be or look so bad that they keep trying to trigger. It's triggers, right? So that's what they're doing. They're trying to trigger you into being aggressive. And that's what he mean by that. Like, so when you get triggered into being aggressive, now you have people over here saying, "See, look, I told you." And if you're tricked with that trigger, right? And that trigger is allowed to if you allow them to trigger you, then you have caved in and gave them what they want. And that's the ability to say, "See, I told you." That's who they are. "See, I told you." And I've been caught up in that so many times, man. Like, it's crazy because I've dealt with people who will try to get you locked up. They want to trigger you so that way they can call 911, right? And we'll talk about that later because that's a way of snitches and things like that also. Like, we could talk about that later. I'm talking about real true snitches, all right? We're not talking about people who tell to protect their moms and people who tell to protect their family because you done wrong their family and all that stuff. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about real live trigger snitches, and we'll talk about trigger snitches. All right. That's what we're going to call that for right now. We're going to call it trigger snitches. People who trigger you in order to get you to do something aggressive so that way they can see the ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to, like I said, damage demolition, to tear you down. So if they can get you locked up, whatever the case is, that's what their goal is. It's crazy how people feel like they have the ultimate power by doing things to trigger you, to get you to react so that way they can, have you locked up, put you in a form of misery so that way they feel so strong about what they've done. And it's crazy because, it's like you could have just left that man alone. You didn't even have to you didn't even have to approach that person, or you didn't even have to start talking well, you didn't have to do none of that. But for some reason, you chose to go ahead and do a whole lot of things that was uncalled for. All right? It was uncalled for. It was bull crap, right? It was weird, right? And we're gonna have another segment about, and we just kind of talk about that now, like people who, since we're talking about this false narratives and stuff like that, people who be on weird antics, and when they trigger you, right, you're like, damn, this person's, on some weird whatever, but then they're quick to utilize them words to try to tear you. Oh, you're weird. You're this. You're you're weird. Whatever the case is, right? They try to use certain words to trigger and tear you down, but it's like, am I the weirdo or are you the weirdo for spinning false narratives? Are you the weirdo for getting me or trying to trigger me and now trying to make my reaction behind your bull crap seem like there's something wrong with my bull, my response to you and your bull? Am I supposed to be considered to be the wrong individual for that? And this is what you have to ask yourself, because, and not even ask yourself, but to the person who's spreading the false narrative about you, you have to ask, what is that? All right. And this is what it comes down to when it comes down to us and, us defending these false narratives, people who spin false narratives about you. This is what it comes down to. You have to defend yourself against these things, because if not, these things can take control. Now, you don't have to defend yourself against everything. Like we was just going across in this whole little, that's what this is about. You don't have to defend yourself against everything. It's good to let some things go. It's good to let your truth show. But when your truth is not shown, and unfortunately today it's not easy for your truth to show because everybody trends into one direction. It's like being in traffic. You ever been in traffic? There's three lanes. You come up to this light, you're coming up to a red light. There's three or four lanes on the road going in this one direction. But for some reason, everybody is stacked up in this one lane at the light. And it seems like for some reason, you and maybe only two out of 50 cars, two or three people are smart enough to break off from this line. And you guys get over here in the open lane so you can go ahead and go on, and move through traffic. But everybody else is stacked up in this one lane. Now, you would think everybody may be turning. They're using this lane to turn or something like that. But then you find out that that's not the case. They're not using that lane to turn. Everybody's just following suit. And that's where the issue comes in, that of people trend and people follow each other. And that's what you see out here in society, is that people are following and they're quick to trend and follow the next person. And if the next person seems to be that much cooler than what you are, then they're going to follow that person regardless of whether truth is prevailing or whatever the case is. I just want to fit in and be accepted. And that's what people do. They're trending on acceptance. They're trending on fake acceptance. It's called, what's that one song that Dr. Dre had? It's called Satisfaction. Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg off the Straight Outta Compton album. But it's called Satisfaction. It's a song by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and that's what it is. People are living in satisfaction. So with that being said, man, we're gonna, I just hope everybody picked up something. Everybody who's out there listening, I know this is my first official podcast, and it starts off the new year of 2026 with this, and we're talking about false narratives here. So I hope everybody has picked up something here. This wasn't the most interesting podcast, or this wasn't the most interesting episode. For everybody who tuned in on YouTube to watch the episode, for everybody who tuned in on Spotify to listen to the episode, I appreciate everybody who took their time out to just, show your man some support. I appreciate that, man. Big ups to you right there, man. Give yourself a round of applause. Because sitting through this content right here, man, is not always easy. It's not. And so with that being said, man, it's just, we have to be mindful about the individuals that we're around, right? Because like I said, I have people that's trying to tear me down all the time. They're trying to spin this false narrative about me all the time. They're trying to say that, they're trying to prove to people that I'm this terrible individual, right? And all I'll do is ask people who know me. I say, hey, stop. First of all, look at me. For the people who know me, you have to look at it. First of all, look at me. You know who I am, right? You know who I am. So with that being said, how can you, the person who know me and been knowing me for this long in your life, sit there and listen to the false narratives that somebody could spin about me, but you have yet to see or you have never experienced that type of rhetoric behavior out of me. You have no evidence. You've never seen that type of evidence, but yet you fell in line with them. If you have people around you like that, then best believe that them was never your peoples, man. All right. But I'm gonna say this content right here, like I said, this right here comes from Predict Future. This comes from Predict Future. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. If you guys want to go over there and check out the rest of the content over there at their um, at their channel, like I said, it's Predict Future. This right here is like some type of AI video or whatever, like they put together with the narrative. You know, a lot of people been using the Denzel Washington voiceovers and stuff like that. I'm not too sure if Denzel has approved any of these. It seems like he may have because everybody's utilizing his vocals and AI in his vocals everywhere, all across the doggone platforms. I don't care where it's at, whether you get on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Reels, whatever the case is, you're seeing all this stuff, right? And so, with that being said, man, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. I appreciate you guys coming in and kicking back with your man's Mr. Cali Rexx. Man, once again, give yourself a round of applause because this wasn't the most interesting content. So, with that being said, man, I hope everybody out there enjoys and is being safe on this good New Year's, starting off the first month of 2026, right? Like I said, we're trying to get over the hump. You know, I went through the worst from 2024 to 2025. I'm praying that 2026 gets a little better, even though I foresee more in the storm for myself. You know, I do. I foresee more in the storm for myself. And I'm praying that 2026 becomes a better year eventually for me. I'm praying that, you know, the universe and God, you know, holds me and my family down, you know, and give us grace this year. You know, I've been, like I said, I've been through so much, you know. For those who know me, lost my moms and you know, lost a couple of good people in my life, man. So, you know, I just want to go ahead and just give a big shout out to my fam, to my peoples out there, my folks, you know, people who got the patience for me, man. You know, people who deal with me and things like that, man. I just want to give a big shout out to y'all. But you know, as I said, this is what we do, man. You know, we're talking, we're mixing things up. You know, we'll have segments about politics. We'll have segments about religion. We'll have segments about relationships. You know, we'll have segments about everything, man. There's nothing that's off limits, man. We're going to talk about everything. I don't care what it is. We could talk about whatever. I don't care all this, you know, internet game banging. We're going to talk about all that too, man. So anyway, man, I appreciate you guys coming in and checking in with your man's Mr. Cali Rexx, man. I appreciate you guys spending time with your man's Mr. Cali Rexx. You know, because like I said, this wasn't an easy segment to sit through, but I appreciate you guys. So with that being said, man, everybody be cool, everybody be good. I appreciate you. Peace, salute. You know, coming from your man, Mr. Cali Rexx, man. Everybody go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, share, please, so people can pick up on these videos and we can hopefully get this information out. All right. So that being said, everybody be blessed, stay safe.